Angela, a black woman, unexpectedly gave birth to white twins, causing her billionaire husband, Julian Williams, also black, to accuse her of infidelity and abandon her in a moment of vulnerability. Years later, startling revelations come to light that completely alter the narrative. This story goes beyond mere survival. It showcases Angela's transformation into a formidable warrior who overcomes her fears and reclaims her life against all odds. Before we dive deeper, let me share where you're tuning in from. If stories like Angela's resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe for more engaging narratives. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you have a story you'd like to see brought to life. The majestic skyscrapers of New York City shimmered with the promise of success, and at their summit stood Julian Williams. His name was a byword for power, wealth, and philanthropy. Beneath the splendor of his empire lay a meticulously maintained facade. Julian was admired as a man of the people, a self-made tycoon whose image frequently adorned magazine covers. He seemed untouchable. At home, Julian's existence was equally impeccable. His wife, Angela, embodied everything he had envisioned: strong, beautiful, and supportive. Their opulent penthouse served as a sanctuary of love, exuding a happiness that money couldn't purchase. Together, they were the epitome of glamour among the city's elite, hosting extravagant dinners and attending prestigious galas. However, beneath the surface, Julian was acutely aware that his life was a delicate construct, and a single misstep could lead to its unraveling. This misstep arrived sooner than he anticipated. Angela went into labor with their eagerly awaited twins. Yet, when Julian held the babies, his world turned upside down. The twins had blonde hair and light skin, a stark contrast to Julian's dark complexion. He stood frozen, gazing at them in disbelief as doubt and confusion overwhelmed him. Angela, still recovering from childbirth, offered a weak smile, her eyes filled with tears of joy. But Julian couldn't share in her happiness. His heart raced with countless questions. How could this be? His children didn't resemble him at all. Was this some kind of cruel prank? Had Angela been unfaithful? His voice quivered as he confronted her, his words sharp and accusatory. "Angela, what is this? How could this happen? Our children, they don't look like us." Angela's smile instantly vanished, replaced by fear as she saw Julian's disbelief and anger. She was left speechless, unable to provide an explanation as tears filled her eyes. The room, once warm with the sounds of newborns, now felt cold and tense. Without another word, Julian turned and walked out of the hospital, leaving Angela devastated and alone. In the days that followed, Angela experienced a whirlwind of pain and confusion. She never imagined that the man she loved and the father of her children would abandon them in their most vulnerable moment. The luxurious life they had built together vanished overnight. Angela, once a cherished figure in high society, became an outcast. The rumors were relentless. People speculated about Julian's departure and the mysterious appearance of the twins. With no support from Julian and no access to their shared wealth, Angela had to make tough choices. She packed her belongings and moved to a modest apartment on the city's outskirts. The once glamorous woman now juggled 2 jobs to make ends meet. Every morning she left her children with a compassionate neighbor while she worked long hours as a waitress. She returned home exhausted, her feet sore and her heart heavy. Angela found solace only in her children. Their laughter filled the small apartment with warmth, and she couldn't afford their small desires for toys or treats. She found joy in their love for one another. Her loyal friends became her lifeline, helping with the children, providing meals, and offering emotional support. Angela's determination never wavered, though the burden of her circumstances often threatened to break her spirit. Each time she felt on the brink of giving up, she looked at her children, her beautiful blonde twins, and reminded herself that they were worth every sacrifice. As time went on, Angela began to rebuild her to rise for her children's sake. The glamorous woman transformed into a symbol of resilience. She no longer donned designer clothes. Instead, she wore the armor of a mother fighting for survival. Every challenge was a reminder of the life she had lost, but she pressed on with unwavering determination. One evening, after putting her children to bed, Angela sat in the dim light of her kitchen, contemplating a business idea that had been forming in her mind for months. Having managed a household for years, she understood the struggles of busy families trying to balance work, parenting, and daily tasks. What if she could create a service to alleviate that burden? With just a few $100s in savings and immense willpower, Angela launched her online grocery delivery service. Initially, progress was slow, barely covering her bills, but Angela persisted. She connected with local businesses, offering partnerships and gradually building a loyal customer base. Slowly, her business began to gain momentum. Each small success reinforced her belief that she could create a better future for her children. Angela's hard work eventually bore fruit. A chance encounter with a representative from a national supermarket chain led to a partnership that propelled her small business into the spotlight. Investors took notice, and soon Angela's online grocery store expanded beyond her humble apartment. She relocated her operations to a small office space, hired employees, and watched her business grow beyond her wildest dreams. Her success wasn't just financial. Angela had fought so hard to provide. She had evolved from a woman wronged and abandoned into a powerful, independent entrepreneur. Just as Angela began to feel the weight of her past lifting, a shadow from that past re-emerged. On her children's 5th birthday, Angela's company was set to be listed on the stock exchange, a triumphant moment that should have been one of the happiest days of her life. The celebration was magnificent, filled with laughter, friends, and a promising future. Yet amidst the joy, Angela's heart skipped a beat when she saw Julian enter the room. The moment Julian stepped into the party, the atmosphere changed. Angela felt her heart race, a mix of shock and anger clouding her mind. He looked different, well-dressed as always, but there was something broken in his demeanor. Julian, the man who had once abandoned her and their children, now stood before her with a somber expression that contrasted his previous arrogance. Angela's friends immediately sensed the tension, their smiles fading as they exchanged concerned glances. Her children, unaware of the history between their parents, continued to play, their laughter a sharp contrast to the heavy atmosphere. Julian approached her slowly, his eyes filled with what seemed like regret. "Angela," he said softly, his voice slightly trembling, "I need to talk to you." Angela remained silent, crossing her arms defensively, unsure of how to respond. What right did he have to appear after all these years? What could he possibly want now? Julian took a deep breath and began his confession. "There's something I've kept hidden for a long time, something I should have told you years ago. I left you because I was afraid, not just of the twins, but of myself. I was born to blonde parents, but inherited a rare genetic condition that gave me my darker complexion. I never told anyone because I thought it would make me seem less. I believed I could secure more wealth and power by leaving you and marrying into another family. But I was wrong." Angela felt her heart twist as his words settled over her like a suffocating blanket. She had imagined countless reasons for Julian's abandonment, but this was something she had never considered. She looked at him, emotions swirling, anger, confusion, pity, but forgiveness was not yet within her grasp. "And now?" Angela asked, her voice hardened. "Why are you here?" Julian swallowed hard, his eyes pleading. "The woman I left you for, she betrayed me. I was ousted from the company I built. I lost everything. And I've carried the guilt of abandoning you and the children ever since. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to come today. I had to tell you the truth." As Julian's confession lingered in the air, Angela felt a whirlwind of emotions. Could she forgive him? Could she allow him back into their lives after the pain he had caused? Her mind raced with memories of sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and the fear of raising 2 children alone. Her children, her beautiful innocent twins, deserved to know their father. But how could she trust him after everything? Could Julian, this broken version of the man she once knew, truly redeem himself? Angela's heart battled her mind. She had worked tirelessly to build a new life, one free from betrayal and lies. Yet here Julian was seeking redemption. Was it for the children or for himself? After hours of contemplation, Angela decided she would forgive Julian, not because he deserved it, but because her children needed their father. She allowed him back into their lives, but under her terms. Angela understood that trust would take time, and she wasn't ready to fully open her heart again. But for the sake of their children, she would try. The ensuing weeks were a delicate dance of emotions. Julian, once a distant figure, began to engage in his children's lives. He picked them up from school, attended their soccer games, and read them bedtime stories. Gradually, they started forming a bond with the man they had only known through photos and whispered memories. Meanwhile, Angela maintained her distance, watching as Julian attempted to integrate himself into their world, her heart guarded. Despite her decision to forgive, the wounds of the past remained fresh. Her friends were skeptical, constantly reminding her of Julian's actions. "People don't change," they would caution. "Be careful, Angela." But Angela believed in second chances. For her children's sake, she had to. 1 year after Julian re-entered their lives, Angela's business had flourished into a powerhouse. They had expanded into multiple markets, and her company became one of the most talked about in the tech industry. Angela was proud of her achievements, but a nagging feeling lingered, a sense that something was amiss. Her intuition proved correct. One afternoon, while reviewing company documents, Angela discovered discrepancies in their financials. Initially thinking it was a simple mistake, she dug deeper and uncovered something far more sinister. Julian had been siphoning money from her company, embezzling funds into a secret account. Her heart sank as she realized the depth of his betrayal. But that wasn't the worst part. Later that evening, Angela received an anonymous package at her office. Inside was a recording, audio of Julian conversing with another woman. In the recording, Julian's voice was cold and calculated as he outlined his plan to eliminate Angela and the children. "Once they're out of the picture," he said, "the company will be ours." Angela's world shattered. The man she had forgiven, the father of her children, had been scheming against her from the start. Her forgiveness had been met with manipulation and deceit. The next day, Angela summoned Julian to her office, her expression unreadable as she awaited his arrival. When Julian entered, he smiled, unaware of what was about to unfold. Angela played the recording, her heart pounding as Julian's face paled. "I didn't think you'd find out," Julian whispered, his voice trembling. Angela's eyes were cold, her face composed. "You thought wrong." As Julian stood to leave, 3 policemen entered the office. Julian's eyes widened in shock as they handcuffed him. He was caught. This time there would be no escape. Angela watched as the man who had caused her so much pain was led away in chains, her heart aching for her children. But she knew she had made the right choice. Justice had been served. Julian would face the consequences of his actions, and Angela, the wounded, had emerged stronger. With Julian out of their lives for good, Angela focused on moving forward. Her business continued to thrive, and her children flourished in the loving, stable environment she had created. The lessons of betrayal, forgiveness, and resilience had shaped her into the woman she was today, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Angela knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she had already overcome so much. As she gazed at the New York skyline, she allowed herself a small smile. This was her empire now, built not on lies but on love, hard work, and truth. Even with Julian gone, Angela couldn't shake the eerie feeling that lingered like a dark shadow over her life. The recording had been her wake-up call, but now she began to question everything she knew about Julian. As days passed, unsettling memories resurfaced, small, overlooked moments where Julian's behavior seemed suspicious but had been dismissed during their marriage. One evening, after tucking her children into bed, Angela sat alone in her office, staring at a folder that had mysteriously appeared on her desk earlier that day. Inside were documents detailing business deals Julian had been involved in, connections to powerful and dangerous individuals, names she'd only heard whispered in the darkest corners of the corporate world. It wasn't just embezzlement. Julian had been playing a deadly game, and she realized her family could have been at risk for more than just his betrayal. Angela's hand, she had only uncovered a fragment of the puzzle. The deeper she investigated Julian's connections, the more it became clear that secrets lay buried beneath the surface. Could Julian have been involved in criminal activities beyond what she had already discovered? And if so, had his enemies taken notice of her? As Angela delved further into Julian's past, she began to notice strange occurrences. Her emails would vanish, her phone calls would drop, and there were moments when she felt she was being followed. Paranoia gripped her tightly, but she couldn't ignore the signs. The more she explored Julian's connections, the more evident it became that someone didn't want her to uncover the truth. One night, while working late in her office, Angela heard a noise outside the building. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she cautiously approached the window. Peering out, she saw a figure standing in the shadows, watching her office intently. Her breath caught in her throat as the figure turned and disappeared into the night. Was it just her imagination, or was she being targeted for digging too deep into Julian's affairs? Determined to protect her children, Angela enhanced security around her home and business. But the feeling of unease persisted. She knew she was playing with fire, but stopping wasn't an option. Too many questions remained unanswered, and she couldn't let the mystery consume her without uncovering the full truth. In the midst of her turmoil, Angela received a call from an unexpected source, Detective Rachel Cruz, the officer handling Julian's embezzlement case. Cruz was sharp, relentless, and had her own suspicions about Julian's past. "I've been examining your husband's financial records," Cruz said during their meeting at a dimly lit cafe, "and there are numerous gaps, transactions leading to offshore accounts, links to shell companies. Julian was involved in something much bigger than just stealing from your business." Angela's stomach twisted at the detective's words. "What are you suggesting?" Cruz leaned in closer. "I believe Julian was laundering money for a criminal syndicate. He didn't just betray you, he endangered your entire family. And now that he's been arrested, there's a chance someone from that syndicate might come after you." Angela's heart raced. "What should I do?" Cruz met her gaze. "Stay one step ahead. If you can uncover the rest of Julian's hidden dealings, we can work to bring down the syndicate. But be cautious. There's no telling who might be watching." Determined to get to the bottom of it, Angela enlisted the help of a trusted private investigator, Jake Bennett, to delve deeper into Julian's double life. Jake, a former FBI agent, was renowned for his ability to trace even the most well-hidden secrets. Angela provided him with the documents she had found, and together they began piecing together Julian's web of deception. Their investigation led them to a private island off the coast, where Julian had established several offshore accounts and hidden properties. Angela felt sick as Jake revealed the extent of Julian's lies. He hadn't just planned to take over her business. He had created a secret life for himself, complete with luxury homes, yachts, and business ventures she had never known existed. As they continued to investigate, Angela discovered something even more disturbing: an encrypted folder on Julian's old laptop. After hours of cracking the code, Jake unlocked it, revealing a series of emails and messages between Julian and leaders of an international crime syndicate. They had been laundering money through her company, using it as a front for their illicit activities. Angela's blood ran cold. This was far beyond anything she had imagined. Julian had made her a pawn in a dangerous game, and now that game had turned deadly. Angela knew she was in over her head. The syndicate would stop at nothing to protect their empire, and now that she possessed incriminating evidence, her life was more at risk than ever. Detective Cruz urged her to go into hiding, but Angela refused to run. She had worked too hard to build her life and wasn't about to let Julian's sins destroy everything she had fought for. Instead, Angela decided to take matters into her own hands. With Jake's assistance, she began collaborating with the authorities to build a case against the syndicate. But time was against her. The more they uncovered, the more aggressive the threats became. One night, after leaving her office, Angela received an anonymous message: "We know what you're doing. Stop, or there will be consequences." Angela's hands trembled as she read the message, but rather than backing down, she felt a surge of determination. She had already survived Julian's betrayal. She wouldn't let fear control her life now. As the investigation neared its end, Angela found herself facing a high-stakes confrontation. The syndicate had sent one of its enforcers, a ruthless man known only as the Fixer, to eliminate her once and for all. Late one evening, as Angela returned home from a meeting with Cruz, she sensed something was wrong. The door to her home was slightly open, and the lights inside were flickering. Her heart pounded as she cautiously entered. In the darkness, she heard footsteps ascending the stairs. Someone was inside. Instinctively, Angela grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly made her way upstairs. Her children were at a sleepover, for which she was grateful. As she reached the top of the staircase, she saw him, the Fixer. He stood in her bedroom, rifling through her desk drawers, searching for something. Angela knew she had to act quickly. Quietly, she called Detective Cruz, whispering her location and situation before stepping into the room. "Who are you looking for?" Angela's voice was steady but edged with defiance. The Fixer froze, slowly turning to face her with cold, predatory eyes. There was a flicker of surprise on his face, soon replaced by a sinister smile. "So you're the one causing all the trouble," he said, his voice low and menacing. Angela didn't flinch. She stepped forward, gripping the knife tightly, though every fiber of her being screamed to retreat. "Leave my house. I'm not afraid of you." The Fixer laughed, a dark, mocking sound that echoed through the room. "You should be. I've dealt with people braver than you." Angela held her ground. "If you think you can intimidate me, you're wrong. I've faced worse monsters than you." Just then, the room was suddenly illuminated by headlights as a car pulled into her driveway. The Fixer's grin wavered. He glanced towards the window before returning his gaze to Angela. In that brief moment, she realized her only option was to act swiftly. She lunged at him, the knife cutting through the air. The Fixer responded quickly, seizing her wrist and twisting it painfully. The knife hit the floor with a clatter, but Angela didn't relent. She delivered a strong kick to his shin, causing him to lose his balance. A small USB drive. Her eyes fixed on it as he vanished down the stairs. Trembling, Angela hurried to retrieve the USB just as Cruz and two officers burst into the house. "He's gone," she managed to whisper, pointing towards the back door. "But he left this behind." Detective Cruz swiftly took the USB, her expression growing serious as she held it up. "This could be exactly what we need." Hours later, Angela sat at her office desk, still shaken from the ordeal but determined. The USB drive now rested before her, faintly glowing in the dim light. Detective Cruz had left it with her, assuring her it would be analyzed by the authorities. However, Angela couldn't wait. She needed answers immediately. She inserted the drive into her laptop, her hands trembling as she accessed the files. Initially, it seemed encrypted. A jumble of indecipherable characters filled the screen. Frustrated, Angela sighed, but just as she was about to abandon her effort, an old memory resurfaced. Julian had once mentioned a peculiar passcode he used for his most confidential files. Could it work here? With hesitant fingers, Angela entered the code she had memorized long ago. "Tides never lie 99. The screen flickered, and the files unlocked. Angela's eyes widened as she scrolled through the documents. What she saw sent shivers down her spine. There were records of offshore transactions, confidential agreements, and a list of names spanning multiple industries and countries, all connected to the syndicate Julian had been involved with. Even worse, her own company was frequently mentioned, being used as a laundering front without her knowledge. But one file stood out: Project Revival. Angela clicked it open, revealing a detailed plan for a hostile takeover of her company, masterminded by none other than Julian himself. The document outlined a meticulous strategy to ruin her business using insider information to bankrupt her and seize everything she had built. Her stomach churned. Julian had orchestrated this from the start. Even after his downfall, his influence had reached further than she had ever imagined. Now, she held the evidence that could dismantle not only him, but the entire syndicate. But there was more. A hidden folder labeled Legacy. Angela opened it, and what she discovered next was horrifying. A series of emails between Julian and someone codenamed the Architect. The messages hinted at a vast conspiracy involving high-ranking officials and powerful corporations. It wasn't just about Julian's greed, it was much deeper. The Architect, whoever they were, had been orchestrating everything from the shadows. Angela felt her chest tighten as she read through the conversations. This unseen puppet master had been advising Julian, providing him with resources, contacts, and strategies. In return, Julian had pledged his unwavering loyalty until he overstepped his bounds. Angela's hands shook as she read the final email. "You've become a liability, Julian. We're cleaning up the mess. Don't make it worse. As for Angela, she'll be next if she interferes." Her blood ran cold. Julian had merely been a pawn in a larger scheme. With him out of the picture, the syndicate's attention turned to her. The Architect was now coming for her. Angela knew she had to act quickly. She called Cruz, explaining her findings. The detective's voice was calm but urgent. "We need to move now, Angela. This is bigger than we thought." Before Cruz could respond, Angela's office phone rang. She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" a cold, measured voice replied. "Angela, you've been busy, haven't you?" Her heart skipped a beat. It was him, the Architect. "You should have left well enough alone. Now you've forced my hand. Expect a visit soon." The line went silent. Panic surged through Angela, but she quickly regained her composure. There was no time to lose. She gathered her children, arranged for them to stay with her closest friend out of town, and doubled the security around her home and office. Jake, her trusted private investigator, returned with a team of specialists. They worked through the night, preparing for whatever was next. But Angela knew the danger wasn't just physical. It threatened everything she had built. In the following days, strange events unfolded. Investors withdrew from deals, crucial meetings were canceled, and the media began publishing negative articles about her company. The syndicate was attempting to ruin her reputation, turning allies into adversaries. But Angela refused to give up. With the USB drive and Cruz's assistance, she started building an unassailable case against the syndicate. Authorities were closing in on the Architect's network, but Angela knew the real battle would begin when the Architect made his move. The Architect's influence was more extensive than Angela had anticipated. Every aspect of her life felt constrained by invisible forces. Former business partners distanced themselves, trusted allies grew cold, and her once loyal employees hesitated, whispering about the recent media attacks on her company. However, Angela was no longer the woman Julian had abandoned. She was now hardened, sharper, and more focused. Determined not to succumb to these threats, she assembled a team of experts, including a cybersecurity firm, to defend her reputation and protect her business infrastructure. Detective Cruz tirelessly tracked down members of the syndicate. She and her team were getting closer to the Architect's network, but each lead felt like a meticulously laid trap. The closer they drew, the more elusive the enemy became. One evening, while reviewing the latest case developments, Angela received a grim update from Jake. "The Architect is moving faster than we thought," he reported, his expression serious. "I've heard from my sources that they're planning a major assault on your headquarters." Angela's heart raced. "What should we do?" Jake's eyes burned with determination. "We can't wait for them to strike. We need to take the fight to them." Jake's plan was daring and risky. Having worked undercover for months, he had gathered intelligence on the syndicate's operations and was ready to execute a preemptive strike. Angela agreed. They needed to end this before the Architect could tighten his grip further. Their first target was a syndicate safe house, a nondescript building in the city's industrial district. According to Jake, it was an operational hub where key syndicate members conducted their most sensitive activities. Under the cover of darkness, Angela, Jake, Cruz, and her team approached the building. Inside, Angela knew they would find not just incriminating documents but also individuals who could lead them directly to the architect. With precise coordination, Cruz's team stormed the building, arresting several individuals linked to Julian's corrupt dealings. Angela stayed outside, her heart pounding, awaiting Jake's signal. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, rushing toward her. Angela's instincts took over. She recognized him as one of the men who had previously worked for Julian. He reached into his coat and Angela reacted, shouting for help. Just as Cruz's team intercepted him, the man revealed a recording device. Cruz later confirmed that he had been sent to gather intelligence on Angela, feeding information directly to the architect. It was clear they were closing in. With the safe house raid, Angela and her team gained the upper hand. The evidence collected from the operation, combined with the information on the USB drive, painted a comprehensive picture of the syndicate's activities. Names, dates, and locations, enough to dismantle much of the architect's network. But the architect himself remained elusive. Every trace of him seemed to vanish, just as they were about to capture him. Even Jake, with all his connections, struggled to find concrete details about the man behind the codename. Angela felt the pressure mounting. Each day without finding the architect meant another day her company teetered on the edge of collapse. The media continued to harass her, and rumors of lawsuits and financial investigations swirled around her. She could almost sense Julian's shadow looming over her, mocking the chaos he had left behind. But she refused to falter. She had come too far. In a final effort, Angela and Jake devised a plan to draw the architect out of hiding. They decided to stage a public announcement, a fake merger between Angela's company and a well-known rival. The architect, manipulating Angela's business from behind the scenes, would be forced to react. The announcement was scheduled for the following week. Angela knew it would either force the architect into the open or destroy everything she had built. On the day of the merger announcement, Angela stood before a crowd of journalists and investors, her composure impeccable despite the tension. Cruz and her team were strategically positioned around the building, ready for any sign of the architect's interference. Jake monitored the situation from an off-site location, coordinating with a network of informants watching for suspicious activity. As Angela spoke, outlining the terms of the merger, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Something significant was about to occur. Suddenly her phone buzzed with a sharp alarm, a coded message from Jake. "They're moving." The architect had taken the bait. Angela continued her speech, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The next phase of the plan was already in motion, and she knew the architect was about to make his move. As the crowd listened intently, Angela maintained her poised smile, preparing for the confrontation. Behind her calm exterior, she was bracing for the storm. Cruz's team moved quickly, tracking the architect's men as they closed in on the building. The fake merger had worked. They had provoked the reaction they needed. Jake's message came through again, more urgent this time. "He's here." Angela's breath caught. The architect was in the building. Her pulse quickened as she concluded the press conference and made her way backstage. Security personnel quietly surrounded the area, sealing off all exits. Cruz appeared beside her, her face tense with focus. "We've got them cornered, but they're armed," Cruz whispered. "We need to proceed carefully." Angela nodded, her mind racing. This was the moment she had been waiting for. But there was still one critical question unanswered. Who was the architect? Despite her investigations, she had never uncovered his true identity. He had always remained a shadowy figure, manipulating events from the darkness. Now, he was just steps away. The tension in the air was palpable as Cruz's team moved through the building's corridors. Angela followed closely, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. Every step brought them closer to the truth. Every corner they turned could reveal the face of the man who had orchestrated her downfall. Cruz signaled for her team to stop in front of a door marked Executive Boardroom. They exchanged silent signals, preparing to breach the room where their intelligence indicated the architect was hiding. With a swift motion, Cruz pushed the door open. Inside, sitting calmly at the head of the table, was a figure Angela recognized instantly: Charles Barrett, the CEO of a rival corporation. He was a man with a spotless public image, respected in business circles and the media alike. Barrett looked up, his expression cool, though his eyes gleamed with malice. "Ah, Angela, I had a feeling you'd uncover it," he said. Angela's heart sank. She had done business with him before. He had even courted an alliance with her company years ago. But now, everything made sense. Barrett had always been overly interested in her operations, too eager to merge their companies. All the while, he had been working behind the scenes to dismantle her empire. "Why?" Angela demanded, her voice steady but filled with fury. "Because you had everything. Why go to such lengths to destroy me?" Barrett leaned back in his chair, a smug smile playing on his lips. "You were a threat. You weren't supposed to succeed. I ensured that." Angela clenched her fists, the weight of his betrayal crashing down on her. But Barrett wasn't finished. "Julian wasn't the only one with ambitions. He was useful, a pawn in my game. But when he outlived his usefulness, I had to step in. The architect had bigger plans." Before Angela could respond, Cruz's team moved in, guns drawn. Barrett didn't resist as they handcuffed him. His calm demeanor didn't falter, as if this was just another failed business deal. As Barrett was led out of the room, he glanced back at Angela, his voice low and menacing. "This isn't over. I'm not the only one pulling the strings." The arrest of Charles Barrett sent shockwaves through the business world. Media outlets raced to cover the story, and overnight, Angela transitioned from being the subject of controversy to being hailed as a hero who had exposed corruption at the highest levels. Barrett didn't resist as they handcuffed him. His calm demeanor didn't falter, as if this was just another failed business deal. As Barrett was led out of the room, he glanced back at Angela, his voice low and menacing. "This isn't over. I'm not the only one pulling the strings." The arrest of Charles Barrett sent shockwaves through the business world. Media outlets raced to cover the story, and overnight, Angela transitioned from being the subject of controversy to being hailed as a hero who had exposed corruption at the highest levels. But Angela couldn't shake the weight of Barrett's final words. "I'm not the only one pulling the strings." The architect had been unmasked, but was Barrett truly the end of the line? The syndicate was vast, with connections across industries and governments. Angela knew there were more players out there, hidden enemies who would stop at nothing to control the game. For now, though, Angela focused on rebuilding her life. Her company, once on the brink of collapse, bounced back with renewed strength. Investors who had once fled returned, eager to be part of a business that had survived such a massive conspiracy. Angela's children, blissfully unaware of the dangers that had surrounded them, thrived. She spent more time with them, determined not to lose sight of what truly mattered. But even in moments of peace, Angela felt the lingering presence of unseen eyes watching her from the shadows. The battle may have been won, but the war wasn't over. Months passed, and life seemed to regain a sense of normalcy. Angela's company continued to flourish, and she found solace in her daily routines with her children. But beneath the surface, a quiet paranoia had taken root. She couldn't ignore the feeling that Barrett's words held more truth than she wanted to admit. One evening, while working late in her office, Angela received an anonymous email. The subject line simply read, "They're still watching." Her stomach tightened as she opened the message. Inside was a single line of text, "You've only scratched the surface." Attached to the email was a document, a confidential report detailing more offshore accounts, secret partnerships, and blackmail schemes tied to companies Angela had never heard of. But as she scrolled through the list, one name stood out, a company that had recently attempted to acquire her business under the guise of a merger. Her blood ran cold. The syndicate wasn't just watching, they were actively plotting. And this time the threat came from someone even more powerful than Barrett. Angela quickly forwarded the email to Cruz, her heart racing as she typed out a message. "We're not done yet. They're still out there." Determined not to let history repeat itself, Angela gathered her closest allies, Cruz, Jake, and a handful of trusted executives. Together, they devised a plan to root out the remaining members of the syndicate, starting with the company behind the merger attempt. Jake delved deep into his network, pulling strings and following leads that led to shady offshore dealings and anonymous shell companies. The deeper they dug, the more it became clear that Barrett had been just one cog in a much larger machine. Cruz's team began surveilling key individuals, monitoring the movements of executives tied to the conspiracy. Angela knew they had to be cautious. If the syndicate caught wind of their investigation, they would strike back harder than before. But Angela was ready this time. She had faced the worst of them and emerged stronger. She wasn't the same woman who had once been abandoned and betrayed. Now she was a force to be reckoned with, determined to bring the entire syndicate to its knees. As days turned into weeks, Angela and her team worked tirelessly, piecing together the tangled web of deceit that had ensnared her life. The more they uncovered, the more they realized how deep the corruption ran. It wasn't just limited to a few greedy businessmen. It was an intricate network spanning industries, involving politicians and corporate leaders with ties to international crime syndicates. With Cruz leading the investigation, they discovered a clandestine meeting scheduled at a luxury hotel, attended by several high-profile figures linked to the syndicate. This could be their chance to gather irrefutable evidence. "Jake and I will go undercover," Angela decided, determination etched on her face. "We'll listen in and see who else is involved." Cruz nodded, a look of concern crossing her features. "It's dangerous, Angela. We can't underestimate them. If they recognize you—" "I'm not afraid anymore," Angela interrupted, her voice resolute. "I have too much at stake." That night, Angela donned a sleek black dress, her hair styled elegantly. She needed to blend in among the elite, to appear as one of them while hiding the fierce warrior within. Jake suited up alongside her, his demeanor calm but alert. As they arrived at the hotel, Angela felt the familiar rush of adrenaline course through her veins. She was stepping back into a world that had once threatened to swallow her whole, but this time she was in control. Inside the dimly lit ballroom, laughter and clinking glasses echoed off the ornate walls. Angela scanned the room, spotting familiar faces, executives from companies she had once respected, all mingling with Barrett's associates. Jake discreetly tucked a recording device into his pocket as they found a secluded corner. They listened intently as whispers of shady deals and plans for further sabotage filled the air. Just as Angela began to feel a sense of victory, the room fell silent. The double doors swung open, and in walked a tall figure cloaked in mystery, the architect himself. Angela's heart raced. She had only seen him in photographs, and now here he was, exuding an air of confidence and danger that sent chills down her spine. His sharp eyes scanned the room, settling briefly on Angela before shifting away. It was enough. Angela exchanged a quick glance with Jake and they moved closer, attempting to catch every word. The architect addressed the group, a charismatic leader rallying his troops. "We've come too far to back down now. Angela thinks she can outmaneuver us, but we're not finished yet. I have plans that will secure our interests and remove her once and for all." A knot tightened in Angela's stomach. This was worse than she had anticipated. They had to act quickly. Just as the architect finished his speech, Angela made her move. "You think I'd let you destroy my life again?" she called out, her voice cutting through the hushed murmurs. Gasps filled the room as all eyes turned to her. The architect's expression shifted from surprise to fury. "Angela," he sneered, "you should have stayed in the shadows. You have no idea what you're up against." But Angela stood tall, unwavering. "I know exactly what I'm up against, and I'm not afraid of you or your threats." With that, Jake stepped forward, revealing the hidden recording device. "You're done. We've got everything we need to bring you down." He pressed a button, and the audio began playing back the conversations they had recorded. The room erupted into chaos as people scrambled to comprehend the implications. Some attempted to flee, while others remained, captivated by the unfolding drama. Cruz's team burst through the doors, badges in hand, and within moments, the architect and his associates were surrounded. Angela watched, a sense of justice washing over her as the men who had caused her so much pain were finally taken into custody. In the days that followed, news of the architect's arrest and the collapse of the syndicate dominated headlines. Angela became a symbol of resilience and strength, a woman who refused to be broken by betrayal. With Barrett's connections severed and the truth laid bare, her company not only survived but thrived. Angela used her newfound platform to advocate for transparency and integrity in business, turning her story into a powerful narrative that resonated with many. She began speaking at conferences, sharing her journey, and encouraging others to fight back against corruption and injustice. Her children, growing up in an environment filled with love and strength, thrived alongside her. They admired their mother's courage, and Angela made sure to instill in them the same values of resilience and hard work she had fought so hard to uphold. Years later, on the anniversary of the architect's downfall, Angela stood in front of a packed auditorium, sharing her story. "It's not just about surviving the storms life throws at you," she proclaimed, her voice unwavering. "It's about rising stronger than before, using every obstacle as a stepping stone toward greatness." As the crowd erupted into applause, Angela smiled, knowing that she had transformed her pain into purpose. She had fought through the darkness and emerged into the light, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. And with that, she knew her story was just beginning. Angela sat on her balcony one evening, watching the sunset over the New York skyline. The city that had once symbolized her struggles now felt like home. She sipped her tea, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought of Julian, the man who had once shattered her world. Forgiveness had been a difficult road, but she had learned that letting go was part of healing. Their children deserved a relationship with their father, but Angela remained vigilant, ensuring that their well-being came first. As she gazed into the horizon, a new idea sparked within her. A vision for a foundation aimed at helping single parents navigate the challenges she had once faced. It was time to give back, to turn her struggles into support for others. With renewed purpose, Angela knew that her past had shaped her, but it would never define her. She was a warrior, a survivor, and now a beacon of hope for others. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that she had conquered her fears and reclaimed her life. The future was bright, and she was ready to embrace every moment. As we conclude Angela's incredible journey, we encourage you to reflect on the themes of resilience, betrayal, and the power of forgiveness that have shaped her story. How did Angela's experiences resonate with you? Did her transformation inspire you to confront your own challenges? We would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments below and share how you felt about this captivating tale. Your insights not only enrich our community, but also inspire others who may be facing their own battles. If you enjoy stories like these, please subscribe for more captivating narratives. Also, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you'd like your stories to be told. Your participation helps create the engaging narratives we explore together.